in Beresford?
I think she was done with everything 2 weeks ago. Okay.
Call meeting order Monday, August 17th. Roll call, please.
Mayor Anderson?
Here.
Troy Boone? Gerald Deline?
Here.
Troy Doden?
Present.
Art Schott?
Here.
Teresa Reagan?
Here.
And Mike Peterman?
Here.
Agenda was sent out on Friday. Is there a motion to adopt the agenda?
Just one change there, Nathan. If you can add that pay request number 1 for the East Substation project, altitude energy. And that'll be been put in front of each of you guys before you got here. We had a couple issues with the date earlier, so we're correcting all that and got it figured out for us. So
Is that under new business?
it'll be the last thing under new business, yes.
I can make a motion to adopt the agenda as amended.
Second.
Motion by Svagen and seconded to adopt the amended agenda. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Minutes for August 3rd were sent out on August 3rd. Is there a motion to approve the August 3rd minutes?
Doing so moves. Second.
Motion by Deline and seconded to approve the August 3rd, 2020 minutes. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. No public hearings, visitors to be heard. Ms. Karen Olafson from Missouri River Energy.
Good evening.
Sorry.
Jane, can you see the municipal power advantage? Oh, I cannot. What was that?
We can.
Jane, can you see the PowerPoint presentation?
What's your meeting ID?
It is 546.
I just plugged in my earphones before that, but no, I cannot see the PowerPoint yet.
Okay. 078.
Is there something to share this?
Yeah, let me go back to this there.
There it is.
There you go.
Okay.
Not sure. Oh, just for a second. We'll just go with it. Oh, here we go. Let me just, there. All right. Technology's a hard, isn't it? Has been at least the first, the last few months with connecting all of us. Half of our office is still working at home, so, but I'm in the office, thank goodness, so I like being there. I'm Karen Olafson. I've been at Missouri River for over 20 years, working with Jerry on several rate study projects. And we started a new program called Municipal Power Advantage several years ago to help put together the total value the utility brings the community. Because the rate study program just really focused on rates and the revenue requirements of a utility, where this is more all-encompassing of what the utility does for the community, not just provide energy. So since it's so beautiful out, I'll try and quickly go through this. You have the report in front of you that goes into much more detail of the report. So goals of the program are, as I mentioned, determine the value of the municipal utility brings to the citizens and the businesses, to help educate the customers on the value of that utility along with you, the city council. You have a lot going on that you have to be educated on within your city. So hopefully this report highlights the electric utility for you to get you up to speed and help you with your decisions. We want to help the customers become more engaged with the utility and look at them as an energy advisor. So when they have a question, they contact you, the utility, rather than maybe a third-party vendor. And we'll also go through some of the services that MRES is there to help you to continue having a thriving electric utility and provide services to your customers. So some of the benefits are financial and some of them are not. We'll first go through the financial benefits. The first one being wholesale supply savings compared to the regional utility costs. The transfer of the utility provides over to the general fund, contributed labor that the electric utility pays for, but that labor and service is to other utility funds or services that are provided by the city. So first of all, wholesale power costs. As you see, the green bar is what your average wholesale power costs were in 2019. This year they're about 5.7 cents, so just a little tick up of 1/10 of a cent from when we originally did this study. We do track 20 regional wholesale power suppliers, and that average is about 7.1 cents. So the range is 5.9 all the way up to 8.5 cents just for wholesale power supply. As you can see, Beresford has the lowest cost on this graph. And part of that is due to purchasing about 40% from WAPA at 2.5 cents. The remaining 60% is from MRES, about 5.6 cents, or I'm sorry, about 6.3 cents, and blended all together, we get that 5.6 to 5.7 cents. So to calculate the savings that your customers are seeing, we take the difference between that regional average of 7.1, your cost of 5.6 to 5.7 cents to come up with a difference of about 1.5 cents per kilowatt hour. Multiply that by the amount of power that you purchase annually, and it's about $500,000 savings per year if you compare that to what the regional average is. To get down to the residential bill, it's over $12 savings per month your residential customers are seeing because of your wholesale power supply arrangements. The next benefit that I'd like to discuss is the transfer the utility provides over to the general fund. It's really kind of a rate of return the city receives by originally investing into the electric utility system. It supports city services and programs that may not otherwise be funded or may not be funded to the degree that they currently are. Some of those programs include your park and rec program, keep your children busy and out of trouble in the summer, helping with the swimming pool, a full service library that many towns don't have, so it's a huge benefit here in Beresford with the programs that are servicing your community, along with public safety, including your police department. Historically, the transfer was about $400,000 per year. 2019, last year, it dropped to $330,000, partly because of the economic development that's been occurring here. The property tax base has gone up because of the economic development, so the transfer was able to be decreased, alleviating some rate pressure on the electric rates. And I know a couple weeks ago when Evan Liebens was down here talking about the rate study, there was a discussion that the transfer would even go down further to $275,000. How the transfer compares to national utilities is APPA, or American Public Power Association, puts together some information every couple of years, and that average is 5.6%. MRES we do regional information or benchmarking too of about close to 90 utilities we update every year. And that median is 5% of operating revenues transferred. Investor-owned utilities, their equivalent of paying property tax to the city that they operate in is 4.4%. So with the decrease of transfers potentially down to $275,000, that's an equivalent of about 7% of operating revenues. So much more in line with what the national and regional benchmarks are. When it was $400,000, it was about 11.5% of operating revenues. So that did put a little bit of rate pressure on your rates, pushing them up a little bit more because of the higher revenue requirements rates needed to recover. The electric utility staff also provides and helps out the other utilities and city departments in special projects such as, I remember a couple of years ago, our streets just got torn up in the state from the terrible winter. So they helped repair some of those streets, along with the parking lot improvements at the swimming pool. When they were boring in underground electric service, when they're converting service from overhead to underground, they also bored in the telecommunication line to that facility and helped out the golf course with building some bridges. Annually, though, they help do snow removal, keep the parks trimmed up, the trees in the parks trimmed up, decorate the main street with holiday lights and the Christmas tree, along with helping other local organizations and festivals. If the utility crew did not help out on these, either that stuff would not get done in Beresford, or it would probably have to be contracted out, which would, cost the general fund or other utilities. It's difficult to compare apples to apples with electric utility bills. There's so many variables as far as operating expenses and capital improvements that go into the revenue requirements of a utility, such as wholesale power costs, as you saw on that one graph. You're the lowest at 5.7 cents, but there's a wide variety of wholesale power costs ranging 2 to 3 cents higher than what you pay. Utilities are in different operating cycles, whether it's a heavy period of construction or large capital improvements, or they're just completed with that and they're just paying off the debt for those improvements and rebuilding cash reserves. Certainly the level of transfers and donated services, some utilities donate street lighting also, which is a cost to the utility that still needs to be recovered through rates. Along with some utilities don't always do cost of service studies, so their rates within each customer class may not always be in line with the cost of providing that service. So in comparing Beresford, I know Evan provided comparison graphs a couple weeks ago at the rate study, but for this report, we just look at the investor-owned utilities, and there are 6 of them in South Dakota, along with the 2 rural cooperatives that butt up to Beresford, which is Southeastern Cooperative and Clay Union Cooperative. The average of those bills for residential customers is about 105, where Beresford's bill for 850 kilowatt hours is about 117. The small general service customers, they pay about $17 more here in Beresford, or about 7%. And then your larger demand customers, the difference is only about 2% between the bills. But in looking at your rate study, you likely don't need a rate increase, or if you do, it's a very small one over the next several years. Part of that is because of the level rate decrease that you are benefiting from, that they decreased their rates 30% a couple years ago. But the average of the investor-owned utilities and RECs, their rates are typically tick up a little bit every year. So I think as you hold rates stable, your competitiveness of your bills will become even better over the next few years. To break that down, Beresford's residential cost on a per kilowatt hour basis is 13.8. The average of the others is 12.4. Small commercial is 12.6 for beers for customers, and about a cent less for the average of the other utilities. And as I mentioned earlier, your demand customers, your largest customers, they're right in line with the average of the other utilities. So that was kind of more of the financial benefits the utility provides, but there's many other softer benefits that you just can't put a financial number on, and that includes the local governments, you, the city council, make the decisions of the utility, the reliability, the support that you can provide for economic development in Beresford, and many other benefits. ABPA does a survey also on the governance. So 72% of public power utilities with 5,000 customers or less, which is what Beresford would fall into, are governed by city council. 27 out of 61 MRS members are also governed by city councils. City councils help set the operating budget and the policy and rates for the utility. There's a lot of transparency due to public meetings. Public can come in and provide input. You know your constituents in your ward, so if they have a question or an issue with the electric utility, they can either come up to Mike and get it resolved or stop in at the local office or contact you also. Whereas those that are served by investor-owned utilities, it's very difficult to reach their board of directors if you have a major issue, or the PUC. It's a long process to get your voice heard at some of these utilities. Not to mention they don't have a local office anymore. It's all 1-800 numbers. Another benefit is tax-exempt financing. Typically, taxable debt is historically has been about 2 to 3% higher. Well, that's changed a little bit over the last few years. Now it's only about 1 to 2% higher, but it's still lower interest costs for you when you go out and issue debt, which you recently did for the substation project. That average interest rate is only 2.6% over 20 years, which is really helps keep your rate pressure down because it's less interest that you're paying for. You also have outstanding reliability. Your system is nearly 100% reliable, with the exception of once in a while there's a varmint or a squirrel that will get into a transformer and cause a small local outage to a few customers, but the crew knows immediately when that happens, and they get out there and service it to get the power back up to the customers. And reliability is impacted by many different aspects of the distribution system. One of them, at least in this area, is the percentage of underground, and you're nearly 100% underground with the exception of some lines downtown, just due to the cost of putting them under. They'll just remain overhead. The crew daily is out being observant on your distribution system. If they see something that doesn't look right or needs attention, they immediately take care of it. And annually, they do infrared inspections to take care of overheated components to figure out what's going on. The transformer needs replaced because it's overheated. They'll take care of that. There's lightning arresters on the entire system to help dissipate any lightning strikes. They're diligent in tree trimming along with vegetation management. So a lot of it is just the reliability goes down to just being observant on your electric utility system of the local crew. So when outages do happen, or there's a planned one, you have that new Civic Ready system. I've never heard of it, but I think it's an excellent tool for customers to stay engaged with their utility, and it probably alleviates a lot of phone calls to the office on what's going on. So hopefully your customers are getting out there and getting signed up for that. The utility also collaborates with the Economic Development Corporation, and you've had some great success stories. Most recently, Hendrix Genetics, with their large contribution to the city by creating 50+ new jobs. K&M Tire, and your housing growth here has been outstanding compared to many other smaller utilities. Those businesses have also taken advantage of our Bright Energy Solutions incentive programs, which is great because it reduces their wholesale power bills along with their retail bills. Other intangible benefits include shared office staff and equipment for the shop and vehicles. That just keeps the operating costs of all of the utilities and city departments down. I can't emphasize enough local customer service and having the ability to just stop in if you have a question and get it resolved. One other intangible benefit is the environment stewardship through your power supply mix. Your power supply mix here in Beresford is already 84% carbon free, and 41% of it is supplied by renewables. I'm happy to say that our Red Rock Hydro project that has been under construction since 2014 is actually producing power as of a couple weeks ago. So that your wholesale power mix will probably be increased next year as Red Rock continues to produce hydropower down in Pella, Iowa. I just wanted to highlight a few of the other services that MRS provides that your customers and staff can take advantage of to help you continue to be successful. One of those is power supply planning and transmission planning. I know our transmission crew has really helped the utility out on getting the substation and the transmission line planned along with your engineering company. And we also provide wholesale power cost forecasts that are used in the budget with along with the Rate City program. Bright Energy Solutions, that was a program that came about in 2008 to help your customers become more energy efficient, along with some new electrification incentives. Since 2008, MRS has paid your customers about $195,000 in incentives. And the best thing about that is they've saved about 0.5 megawatt in power, along with about 2.2 million kilowatt hours that they're not needing to purchase because of installing energy efficient equipment within their businesses. That power supply savings is being showing up on your customer bills just because they're not buying this additional power to run the facilities. A new program we have in 2020, I don't know if you have any electric vehicles here in Beresford yet, but we're providing an incentive of $500 for anyone that does purchase an EV here for a level 2 charger through charge points. And we're also providing incentive for our members to install public charging stations of up to $15,000 if it's a fast charging station, or $3,000 towards a contract with charge points. We're trying to build out the infrastructure to encourage electric vehicle purchases and use within the members. One of the other technologies that I'd like to point out is Beresford is actually ahead of the game when it comes to smart grid technologies compared to many of our members. You have AMI, or advanced metering infrastructure, that's been installed for several years, along with using a meter data management to manage all of that internal data and help on the distribution system where outages are, and on your billing system to correctly bill the usage by customer. MRS is also offering that same service, UtiliSmart. Part of our decision on UtiliSmart was the influence of the Beresford staff on how much you guys enjoy working with UtiliSmart and the benefits it's given to your utility. We do have some other upcoming technologies that we're considering for 2021 though, and one is a new customer information billing system that would be able to bill time of use rates. Most of our members, with the exception of a couple, can't bill time of use rates. Well, MRS is planning to move to time of use wholesale rates in 2023. So part of that transition to help the members is to have an adequate billing system that can bill those time of use rates if you so choose to move in that direction with retail rates. A few other services I'd just like to highlight is that we're huge advocacy on public power at the federal and state level. So we have lobbyists along with local or our staff within house promoting policy that promotes public power. We have a communications portfolio that we provide your utility that gets customized to help you get your customers aware of the value of public power, to put into your local print, on your Facebook page, etc. And many other services that provide education and training. I would like to highlight there is one next month. It's going to be virtual, and free. There's no charge. It's called the Leadership Academy. So if you'd like more information about that, it's out on our website. You can sign up for free for that. It's an afternoon and the following morning. And then our local area meetings, hopefully they're up in Sioux Falls. If not, they'll probably be virtual. That's October 28th. Just wanted to highlight those two to put them on your calendar. So in summary, just want to say that your electric utility and your crew and staff, they do an excellent job down here to keep the lights on for your residents and your businesses. Overall, it's about a value of $420 per customer, per residential and commercial customer, just based on the wholesale power cost savings and the benefits that MRS provides to the utility. So, if there's any questions on the report, I'd be happy to answer them now.
I got a question.
Yeah.
I appreciate your time here to come here. Your packet and the other packet that we got from the other gentleman, you said 5.63 is the lowest. Okay, now on the chart here, on page 17, it shows Beresford proposed rate would be the second highest on the entire sheet, 12 points higher than us. So there'll be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 people. 12 people would be cheaper than us, but we own it. And I work at Quality Park. We're probably one of your biggest customers. Mm-hmm. The thing that we hear most is, you own the electric, why can't we get a better rate? Versus these other towns that they own the electric too, like Mid-America, Warren Buffett owns a lot of it, and a bunch of other people.
Yeah.
But these other rates are way lower than Beresford, and they're asking why can't we be more competitive? And then the other thing is, on some of the rebates, like you get rebates, so they give rebates and stuff to their customers too. So that's part of my understanding that I kind of get confused about is, I know you got to switch a little bit to the general fund, but their main thing is you show $100 for the general bill. I don't know what person in town has got a $100 electric bill. Everybody's like 100 to 600 or 700 or 800.
If you have electric heat, your bill is going to be much higher.
Right.
Yeah.
So
I've been doing your rate studies up until Evan completed the one this last year, and Beresford's rates have always been on the higher end on those comparison graphs for the electric utility. Right. Some of it has to do with you're in a cash building mode right now. Your reserves are lower than what they probably should be. So over the next several years, your reserves will be increasing. You're doing a large substation project. There's just a lot that goes into everybody's electric utility rates. Some of it is your wholesale power costs. You have about 40% from WAPA. Some utilities get 60 to 70% from WAPA. So their wholesale power costs are a little
paid
bit.
for 5.63 is great.
Yeah.
Great. I mean, that's good.
Yeah. So the gap between that and what is being shown on your electric utility bill is the 6 or 7 cents. That's covering your capital improvements, the transfer, other operating expenditures. If I recall, the labor per kilowatt hour, that's a benchmark that we track. Yours is right in line with what other utilities the size of Beresford is. So your labor costs are right in line.
I'm not complaining about the labor or the equipment. They do a great job. These guys know their business. Part of it's the general fund switches. But some of the people you hit it on the money, they rent an apartment, say for $500 for one bedroom, and their electric bill's $300 a month. And then, is there any programs that you can help landlords or tenants to try to convert some of the old equipment, like those baseboard heaters? They're outrageous. They're never going to get any better.
I'm not part of that program, but the representative from MRS can certainly.
If you got a number or something I could maybe call or pass it out, that would help you a little bit. There's not a lot of people in baseball, but there's a few in town.
Yeah. And
they're paying their bill year round. So I mean, every little bit helps. As far as businesses, that's another issue. We used to have 24/7 out there. Now we're a little bit lower. They filed bankruptcy a little bit. I don't want to talk too much about it, but every penny counts because if there's a rate increase and stuff here, they don't give you a pay raise. And one, when Sendale used to own it, no one got a pay raise in 10 years. Every time the utilities went up, they zeroed out the pay raises. Now a new company's buying it, if we start raising this and this and this, even though it's 2 or 3 or 5%, there goes your pay raise. So that's 50 or 100 people they're out of a raise. So, you know, I did talk to Gerald briefly, I don't mean to get off subject, on some of these rate increases. That's why we'd like a little bit better information on the general fund switching and how much we could do per year would probably be a better synopsis. Rather than raise it 10% this year, I'd rather have smaller increments than bigger ones, if it's at all possible.
Well, based on Evan's rate study, if the transfers are lowered to 275,000, you shouldn't need a rate increase for a few years, at least on the electric side.
Well, I mean, we did have a couple of companies come in. I know one or two didn't quite work out right, but like the turkey place, they're using more electric, but now we're spending more for power plant. I know the offset's kind of different there, but I mean, we're just trying to keep it where it's not too far to the left or to the right, more in the middle.
And I do know, my understanding is your property taxes here in Beresford are some of the lowest in the state.
I don't know about the rules, I don't know, depends who you talk to.
on a mill levy anyway, on the city property tax side.
I think
So
the
that
school,
place-
the school get the most and we get,
There you go.
school gets the most and we get part of it.
Yeah, so that also actually plays a role in public power electric rates because of the transfer.
Right.
Those that have higher property taxes and require less of a transfer, there's less rate pressure on the electric
We're
utility.
building some pretty fancy houses on the golf course. I think we're up in the millions as far as property value. What, about 14 or 15 million, somewhere around there? Give or take, yeah, somewhere in that area, we're up there.
And as economic development continues here in Beresford, your property taxes are gonna keep going up. That's more revenue for the general fund. So there's just so many dynamics that go into play with setting all the utility rates, not just electric.
Right. No, I appreciate you coming, though.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
All right, have a good night.
Thank you.
I'll let you take care of that.
Okay.
Shut it off.
Finance and Utility Committee, access to cameras on city-owned properties.
Finance committee met, or we didn't meet, we discussed what we should we do something with, changing who had access to the cameras, admin privileges. And, Troy and Teresa and I decided that since the city doesn't have its own IT department, that the telephone office, the people who are maintaining the cameras, that they should be in charge. And I believe Jerry contacted Todd over there, and he designated one of the guys over there that works for him. And they will be the only two in the city that will have complete admin privileges over city-owned cameras at this point going forward. And department heads will, and everybody else will just have viewer rights.
So the viewer rights though should literally be restricted to the department heads and the city administrator. That's it. No one else needs to see those cameras. If anyone else thinks, if they're involved in something and they need access to video, that has to go through Jerry or the department head. We don't need every employee with viewer rights.
Yep.
So, you know, it's not necessary. You know, I work at Walmart. As a cashier, you don't get to go into the office and watch video. So, I just think we need a policy in place. I mean, there needs to be something in writing. That's something we talked about. So that as the guard changes over the years, there's something in writing on who has access to that stuff and then who has delete and edit full administrative rights. Nobody needs to be able to delete video. It purges itself after so much time.
Yeah.
So
Could we have Todd delegate his crew to come up with a draft policy?
well, I talked to Todd a little bit today. He thinks the department heads should have ultimate control over their systems. which I agree, they're the department heads, it's their systems, but I just think, and Mike brought this up, you know, we can act like we're a bunch of independent departments, or we can act like we're one large city and treat, treat our support staff at the BMTC that helps us with all this IT stuff as a quasi-IT department, and really just limit, some administrative rights. We, you know, we, just based on, I don't know, past events, I just don't think that we need department heads to be able to delete video.
No, so I think it makes sense, but I mean, so the council coming up, how about the telephone company comes up with a brief outline of how they would be the owners of the admin.
Well, every department's got a different system. I imagine that they've changed, but they're not all in one system.
Okay.
So literally, you know, the MTC, the liquor store, bridges, library, pool, those are all 5 independently operated systems. And each department head, are you the only one in your department that has access to the video?
What video?
I was told you had video.
There's cameras, but they don't record them.
Oh. Okay. Never mind.
And they're hokey at best. Half of them work, half of them don't.
That's what I'm getting at.
It's something I've been looking at getting talking. I talked to Austin a little bit
The
about
telephone people have the expertise
Yeah.
with the cameras.
He said, if you guys run the wires, we'll come put the cameras up for you and get it all
Wouldn't
set
it
up.
make sense to have them go out, develop our inventory of what we've got, come up with some basic guidelines where they're gonna be the administrators? They would, just like they manage all of our email passwords and everything else,
Right.
they'd be the key holders, so to speak, and then
Right.
let them come up with a simple process that works for them.
Yep. I
Be a
just think,
citywide policy, it wouldn't be a department policy.
right.
And then they could give out the admin rights, or not, the view-only rights to department heads.
Yep.
And then if the department head wants to delegate to somebody else, that's fine, but I think it would go back to the IT department, or our telephone department. They would be the ultimate key holder of knowing all of that.
Well, there's, I just don't think, because each department is separate, it's not an IT department that controls all of the IT for the entire company, the city. I mean, I don't think he wants that, because he has no authority at a liquor store, or the bridges, or the library, or the pool. His authority ends.
I'm just saying password,
I'll
just be
just-
the
that'd be
repository
easy.
of passwords.
Right.
I don't think Todd would have to be the one to make the decision on who has what type of access.
Right.
They are just the ones basically
Gonna
maintaining and
execute it.
protecting
Yep.
that security system
Right.
for the city as a whole. If somebody comes in, then that's something that they need to go to their committee if they want to go outside of the department
Right.
head to give access.
Right. But there's nobody that needs access to that other than the individual department heads and the city administrator. That's it.
What about for the police departments? Have there been
Well,
investigations?
No, do not want them to have, not open access.
No, but
They
Well,
can go to the department head if they need, like they're doing an investigation, they can go to the department heads, just like it's an independent, like it's a privately owned business, and just go to them and request access to their video if they're looking
Right.
for something in that video in the neighborhood or something that happened at that location.
Right. And then who overrides the department head if there's a situation like we just had?
Well, the
Well,
department
the
head wants
council's
to
gonna set the
delegate,
policy.
then it's gonna be an
Alright, that's
exception to
fine.
policy, and then council, I think, then
Yeah.
have to approve
That's fine.
any exceptions to policy.
I kinda agree with you guys, just have time to figure something out, come back and, pull from there.
Is there any type of general policy for security? No.
Pretty much whatever you wanna do.
Well, there hasn't been anything to this point, because all this has just been evolving over the last
That's what I'm saying,
5 or 10 years.
wouldn't it be easiest just to have a telephone company who has that expertise come up with some guidelines for the council to review and agree or disagree or modify? Versus us shooting from the hip.
I think Aaron is kind of in charge of, under Todd, Aaron is kind of in charge, from what I've gathered with my security system. You know, he's kind of the guy that installs it, instructs the owner of the business.
Yep.
Like myself, he showed me how to run it, but if I have any questions, I call Aaron. So I mean, I agree with what the mayor is saying. I think if the telephone department puts a policy together, and they have the ultimate,
Council approves it.
you know, but we have to approve it, correct? I agree.
It's not a complicated thing.
Oh,
If the
no.
council says this is what we want department heads to have viewer access, the city administrator have viewer
But what I'm
access.
saying is that they would know
And
what
two people over
systems
there
we
can have
have,
admin rights,
the
that's it.
capabilities, what they can and can't do versus us trying to guess and match a bunch together. Let's let them do it.
Does it need to be that detailed though? I mean, I guess to me, I don't even think we need to go down and specifically say that each department has this system. I mean, I think it's just a short little policy saying telephone department acts as our IT department. 1 or 2 designated people in there will have admin rights. All department heads will have view only rights. Any exceptions to this will have to be approved by council. I mean,
Or city administrator.
or city administrator. But I mean, very, very simple.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, it doesn't need to be detailed.
It'd be nice then we'd have an inventory of what all we've got.
Well, they know what we have, because they've installed it all.
I'm saying just put it all together.
We could put it as an amendment to it so that, or not amendment, addendum or appendix, that's what I'm looking for, right? Like appendix A is a list of all your security equipment within the city.
As soon as they're gonna have that down there, so. That's probably gonna be changing, because that stuff all changes as time goes.
But would it, I guess, would it make sense to put it as an appendix versus as part of the policy? Can we not just update your appendix, or do we have to go and update?
Yeah, I think, actually just looking to have a general policy to say, phone department, you set up the,
Who has control, who has access
yeah,
on paper, so everyone knows. Department heads are responsible, I assume the city administrator can grant access and have access.
there's cameras at the substation, Mike probably should have access.
I think it might also be handy if, moving forward, if we purchase new cameras or upgrade cameras, that we have them involved, so that we all get the best value for our money. And ideally, if we had one system at some point, it'd be better than having 5 different systems.
Do research and maybe put them all together.
Well, right now we have independent, because it's localized hard drives, it's not cloud. So they all have a hard drive on location.
We can review it and see what it costs maybe.
Maybe the next time around, equipment gets upgraded, it's cloud-based.
Yeah, all the better. Can't erase it, right?
Tom's gonna draw something up for council approval.
Good job.
How about Tom?
It's not gonna be an ordinance, right? It's just gonna be,
It's gonna be a policy.
we have a city policy manual, right?
So does everyone agree to let Todd and his crew come up with an outline of how they think it could be managed?
Todd or Tom?
Todd,
Why don't we just have a committee meeting with Todd and talk about it?
Okay.
Late afternoons work for me. Beer garden works good too.
You're gonna do late afternoon Monday or Tuesday.
School's starting for me, so I won't be home till like 6:30 or 7 most evenings now.
don't you think that Todd's crew could come up with just an outline?
I think Todd
I mean,
could. They can still meet or
He's gonna want us to tell him what we want.
I'll have you two go.
We'll talk to Todd.
Yeah.
All right.
Trust you guys.
We're gonna table this till next one.
I think that was just more.
It's just a
report.
report, we're not tabling it.
Any further discussion? Department head and city administrator reports, Mr. Jeff Heidler.
Don't we have to vote in, or is this fine?
That's fine right there.
Okay. Alright, so, Jerry and I were visiting about funds for sewer. And we're just a few dollars away from being able to qualify for the state water plant.
Well, I think just
backing up a little bit, Jeff, is that I think we're gonna run into more costs than what we're gonna try to do every time the $20,000 or $30,000 that we get. I think maybe it's time that we take a look at a little bit bigger approach and take a look at all the mains, or at least a good portion of the mains where we think we have the most problems, and look at a plan to go in and do something as far as putting some financing together and doing these sewer mains, lining these sewer mains on a larger scale than what we're trying to do, little piece by piece by piece. So there's some funds out there and available through the DENR. One of the things that we'd have to do is get on the state water plan is typically written up by your city engineer. He sits down with Jeff and I. We go through and we identify the high priority areas that we want to look at, and then they put together some cost estimates that we can take to the DENR and ask for some approvals, some funding. If your rates are higher than what the average is, which Jeff was just kind of talking about, our rates for sewer run about for 5,000 gallons is $29.14. In order to qualify for some loan forgiveness, which means that if they borrow you $1 million, they might forgive up to half of that. You'd have to have your rates at least $30 per 5,000 gallons or higher. So we probably want to make sure our rates are at least in there with the possibility of getting a bunch of loan forgiveness. So what we've done in the past, if you look at your water bills, you're going to see you've got our water and sewer bills, you've got some fees that have been used, that have been added to your water rates and sewer rates since 2014, and those are going to be for like the 5th, 11th, and 2nd Street projects, along with the Highway 46 projects that we did. Those are large projects, and you just can't get them all taken care of just by piecemealing together. So this is kind of what I think we should look at. We'll also look at our water to see what some of our water needs are going to be. Once we're on the state water plan, they stay on there for 3 years. You have 3 years if you want to do something with them. You can go ahead and move forward with the funding. If you don't move forward, they'll just drop off over time. So we'd want to get them on there. Once they're on, like I said, then we can go ahead and apply for the funding. See if we get some, first of all, the loans run about 1.875% to 2.125% right now from 10 to 30 years. So the loan rates are very favorable right now. So if we can move forward with some of those, even if you don't get the loan forgiveness, you should have very low interest rate loans. So, and they can do them all the way for 30 years also. So I think that's kind of the route we want. When Jeff and I were talking, is that we've got a good start on some of this, but I think we've only got, after we do the manholes, we don't have much money left over to do sewer lining every year. So maybe $15,000 or $20,000 is about all we have, and you're not going to get a sewer lining machine down here, a bunch of guys to do a big project or a small project like that at a very reasonable cost. I don't think so. The more we can do. I was just in Lake Andes over the weekend. They had 4 trucks going around doing their whole town right now. They're just relining all the stuff. Relining, we're not tearing up the streets. We don't have to go in and do all the water, that kind of stuff. So that's what I'm saying we should try to look at, is doing something with that plan rather than just, and if we do things correctly, we can probably be on the state water plan late this year, early next year, doing the funding in the second quarter of next year, which would probably be April, May, for funding for that next year. So I mean, that's kind of what I think we should look at. I think it's a good plan to have in place. We've used it in the past. It's worked pretty good.
How soon can we put up a guesstimate for doing the massive relining as one large project?
What do you think, Jeff? I mean, how much have you got done so far? Televised?
We televised roughly 23,000 feet. And I got another quote for him. This hasn't gone through management yet, but it would be the next, with another 23,000 feet in Lincoln County. What we could get, the 8-inch line, there's some 12, 15, and 19-inch lines that they're going to have to come down and jet with their truck. We spent $13,000 roughly televising that first batch. This is roughly the same linear feet, and it's about $19,000 because they're going to have to clean it, some of it. But this hasn't been approved by HydroClean yet. As far as that first $62,000 bill, you guys wanted to know what they could do for this year, maybe taking a payment next year. The relining part, there's a lot of outlay in material for them. If it got slow and they wanted just to do some stuff, they may take payment next year. Some of the grouting, those smaller items, $3,000 was one, and there might have been two of them for about 6,000 together. They don't have a lot of material in that. That's something that you could put off until next year. I don't know. So now we're spending next year's money this year. I don't like that idea.
Well, I think what you're asking, I mean, we go through and say how many, what our age of, what type of pipe we've got down in the ground. It's 8, 10, 12-inch line. We know that. We know how many miles of that we have in town. We know how long it's been in the ground. So, I mean, I think you can do a pretty good estimate just based on that. Knowing that most of those pipes are going to be deteriorating.
When did they start using PVC?
Oh, God. Any ideas? PVC, when we started using PVC, 70s?
Yeah, it's probably in the.
So how many total miles of sewer main do we have?
I have to look it up. We've done, so 50,000 linear feet. We probably have at least that much left. Yeah. We've done 23, there might be another 40. So 800,000 linear.
80 miles?
I'm not for sure. You don't have any idea.
20 pipes, 20 is good now.
20, sorry.
Huh?
20, sorry.
So is your question basically how much would it cost to reline everything?
Yeah, I mean, how long would it take an engineer to pencil out a guesstimation on what it would cost to reline the whole city at one shot? So when you come back next meeting and say, if we're gonna do all this in one shot, we gotta put it out to bid, so we're gonna do this next year, starting in the spring, and we're estimating it's gonna cost $750,000.
I mean, ideally, it'd be nice to have everything cambered and
Right.
you concentrate on our worst spots first, depending on the funding that we can get available. That's what they're gonna probably say. If it's not all, if we don't have video cameras on all of it, then we'll have to look at, we'll do some estimating, and that's what they're gonna do, just estimate. And then once you get on the water plan, then we can go forward, move forward with some of this stuff. But until you get that, and some of these cost estimates, they're, do we wanna camera absolutely everything, or are we gonna just move forward, so. A lot of cameraing to do, guys. We got a lot. Jeff, I don't know how much we got, but just how many, we got 22 or 23 miles of city streets in town. So you start adding that up, and not every street has sewer up and down it, but there's sewer,
there's a lot of new sewer pipe out
and
there.
easements and everywhere else too, so.
But in order to get on that water plan, you said we have to raise our rates of.
We'd have to get at least $30 unless you didn't want to try to get some loan forgiveness. If you wanted to keep them right where they're at 2914, they wouldn't even look at us for loan forgiveness. You have to be at least $30 per 5,000 gallons of usage.
So we need to raise our rate $1.
Yep.
So we qualify for loan forgiveness.
Right?
What's that?
$1 per 5,000, so
Right,
it's 10,000, you gotta pay $2.
So
I mean,
minimum.
if you're not using much, you're not gonna hardly even see it. If you use 5,000 gallons, you're gonna see a $dollar a month increase, so it'd be $12 a year.
So the minimum of 5,000 gallons is $22 a month.
Does that include the
Surcharges?
surcharges?
No. Is it $1.84 and $1?
The 407 and 407 and 307.
So you include
That's why I got 29,
Okay,
14. So
okay,
that's what you actually pay every month for your sewer.
okay.
Those surcharges are on there for how long, for those projects?
Those are 20 years, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
If not, maybe even 30, I'm not sure exactly.
What's the average water bill in town? Like 5,000, 30,000?
Well, the average house is 1,000 gallons per person.
So maybe 10, 20,000 gallons a month, I mean, in it. Some people got sprinklers, some don't. Some sprinkle grass, some don't sprinkle grass, like I have, mine's maybe
No,
2,000.
she said 1,000
Yeah,
per
per
person a month, so like 4,000, 5,000.
Yeah,
4 or 5%.
I mean, overall, I think it will benefit if we can, like, Troy said, we can get some type of an estimate, say 2 or 3 million or 5 million. And then if we can get loan forgiveness to say 30%, say, maybe $1.5 million, 2 million, everybody in town is gonna save money one way or another.
So if the council wanted to get onto this water plan, would they have to raise the actual sewer rates, or would they add just a surcharge onto it?
We'll just raise the sewer rates right now. Just the sewer rates, not the surcharges will be put on after.
That's
we
what they
approve,
are.
yeah. After we actually go forward and borrow the money to find out how much that's gonna cost and how long we wanna finance it. Like I said, the one is 4.07, the other one's 3.07. If you borrow $500,000, it's probably gonna be less than that, so it might be a couple bucks, $2.50 a month, but you've got all your mains taken care of too. And they're not gonna get any better, guys, they're just.
And taking care of our mains is gonna help us with our lagoon problem.
That's gonna
And hopefully stop us, maybe not have to expand our lagoon, which is another way to save some money.
We're talking $1.5 million, 2 million to handle the lagoons.
Right. We're gonna spend the money one way or the other.
So we want to add on the next agenda, a discussion on the sewer rates.
I think we should get that in place now rather than later. Like I said, most people aren't even, it's gonna be pretty minimal to most people. I mean, unless you're using 5,000, 5,000 is the most we charge on a residential sewer rate. I mean, that's the most you can ever charge. So if you got everything that's $29 or something, if we had $1 to get us up to over $30, that's not gonna be a real big number.
So we're
They'll probably
talking,
stay at the minimum rate.
so we're talking $1 right now per 5,000, but then once we get the funding,
Yeah.
we're gonna add another surcharge on
It
at that
most
point.
likely would be, yes.
And how much are you talking at that point?
Well, the ones we've done are $4.07 and $3.07 per, and that's just a monthly charge.
Right.
It doesn't, it's not based on your usage or anything,
Right.
it's just a fund cost of doing the improvements, so. Yeah, I mean, it could be anywhere in that $2.50 to $3 range, I would guess.
Okay.
Depending on how large a project you get and how much loan forgiveness we get.
Okay.
We never got any loan forgiveness on the other two projects because our rates were too low.
The key to all this is communicating with people so they understand that a year from now, when that surcharge shows up on their bill, that, relining all this sewer line is cheaper than digging it up and replacing it. So your $2 surcharge would have been $12. If we had replaced all this line and expanded our lagoon system, it would be a $5 charge.
And remember, the DNR is pushing us hard into this direction because of their new rules they gave to us that we can't be dumping our lagoons every.
Are we still dumping every month?
No, we haven't. The new rules took effect, beginning of July, we dumped empty things out in June and haven't dumped yet.
So there's not as much water going out there right now, but we've been really dry.
Yeah, we're in drought, so.
Right. So now's the time to do this lining. The ground's gonna be shifting a lot now that we're drying out a little bit.
Sure. I mean, you're still looking probably middle of next year before you get any projects moving forward.
I know.
It's all a process, you just have to get this process. So we'll get a hold of CCOG, Southeastern Council of Governments. They're the ones that will actually help us write the grants, that's part of their job. To get us on the state water plan. And Barrow will help us there.
Make it to the next promotion, on the next.
Yeah, we won't have anything to move forward on right now, but we'll, next meeting we probably will.
Next meeting, we need to approve a rate increase.
Next meeting is actually 3 weeks, but we probably
That's
set one
fine.
here at the end of the.
I'd rather do it sooner than later. Keep the state happy. Let's
I tried getting a hold of that Jean McFarling and Pierre to get her blessing on this, if she's okay with us going forward with something like this. And, I don't know if she's out someplace, I haven't gotten like a reply email that's saying that she's gone, but, I haven't gotten a call back or an email reply, so.
Alright. I just got one other question. You made a comment there, Jerry, about 5,000 for the sewer. That's the max you charge? Like
Yes.
your residential, not
Yeah, for
commercial.
residential only, so.
Commercial is different.
otherwise people were paying, or if you're watering your lawn, you used over 5,000 gallons of water, you're paying sewer fee too, so.
Right.
And like Elaine said, the average person's gonna use 1,000 gallons, so the average family size is probably less than 4 in town, it's probably 2.5 to 3, so. You don't have many of them maxing out their sewer bill every month.
Anything else on sewers and water repair?
No,
Next item.
the only thing that, when Jerry brought this stuff up, Keith has been talking to Mr. Bach over in Irene. They're doing the north side of 46 over there. And that was a $650,000, $700,000 project. And Irene has to come up with 100,000. You know, imagine they're, however, that's a smaller town. You know, I don't know what they qualified for, but that sounds like a pretty good deal to me.
They're doing all new underground though.
Yeah.
They're not lining, right?
Yeah. And but, you know, a $700,000 deal.
They got a CDBG grant, Jeff, which is something that we probably won't qualify based on the income in Beresford, so lower income communities can apply for community development block grants. And we have got them in the past, but the last couple times we've looked at it, our income is too high in Beresford, so we don't qualify for it. So, but that's what they got. They have a CDBG grant that paid probably $500,000 to $600,000 of that. So we'll sort of look at that. I mean, if it's a possibility, I mean, we'll look at all of these different items that we have out there and that are available. But the last time we actually got one approved, we had to do our own survey. We just called people to find out what their incomes were, and that's how we were able to get one. That's been a long time ago. That's probably 15 years ago. So.
Okay. Next item, replacement of 2017 Volvo motor.
Okay, so this 2017 Volvo loader that we have, we got it probably in November of 16. So we're coming up on 4 years. When we bought that, we took a 5-year warranty out on it, powertrain. And what the plan was is to trade it before that warranty is up, so that we don't incur any expense, and always stay in warranty. That would normally have taken, we would start this process that I'm trying tonight is probably in January, February, so that when we came to November, we would be done with that. And in warranty again. Anyway, so I was visiting with the guy from Volvo. They're taking a price increase in the first part of September here, which is going to be roughly, just the price increase is going to lower 4,000 to 5,000. He hasn't heard exactly what the percentage increase is, but everybody is assuming it's going to be in that $4,000 to $5,000 range. For us to, so I had to put together some numbers. If we traded now, to capture some of that money that we would be spending if we, so okay, I got a plan. Let me slow down with this. So I've got a bid run that's good for 90 days. If we decide that we're going to do this, we're not going to be part of that price increase. So he's done a bid through Sourcewell, which I think they take 43% off of retail, and they can take trades that way. He's going to give us $90,000 for ours. He said, or you can sell it yourself, put it out for bids. He said it's $110,000 loader. He'd ask $110 for it if he had it on his lot. He said you could probably get that. He was sure that you could probably get $110,000 for it, because there's what did they say, $1,700? We're coming up on 17. We're coming up on $1,700 on the machine, low-hour machine. And so the $90,000 that he offered us now is because there's still a year warranty left. That's worth $5,000 to them. A year from now, it's $5,000 less, plus whatever the machine's depreciated. I guess I'm trying to beat this price increase. I don't know, what do you guys think?
What's the price of the new one, Jeff?
So what I had in pricing was an L60 like we have and an L70. The L70 has electric or hydraulics, little heavier machine, and probably would suit us a little bit better. The price difference between the 60 and the 70 is about $14,000, and the 70 was going to cost us about $62 to trade. That was if we turned the old one into him for $90,000. If we could sell it ourselves, if we got 100 for it, it would be $52.
62,000
Yeah.
to boot for the second.
Yeah.
And what was the reason that you were thinking that you wanted this?
It's got electric over hydraulic. The electric servos that run the hydraulic system. Right now, when we go back, we've got the kick out for going up, but you have it for going down too. So if you got it set for, like say the snowplow, that's what I'm looking at. You can set it, it'll go back to that original spot without trying to hunt and fish for it.
I got a question. You said it traded now, okay? You got a year warranty, say next year we keep it, just hypothetically. Trans goes out, what are we looking, 40 to 60,000 for trans?
Yeah, so.
Okay, the other question real quick is, now if you trade this in, you said for 40 or 50,000, somewhere in that area, do you get the 5-year warranty with the new one, or is that extra?
No, well, it cost us $5,000 for that
More?
warranty. Yeah.
So,
This is with the warranty, at 52.
so what kind of money are we looking with the warranty, 50, 60?
62 if we go with the 70.
Okay, yeah, but then you still get the 5-year warranty with the
Yeah.
brand new one.
Yeah.
So that means we're covered for another 5 years.
The reason we went with that, so the plan was we were gonna keep trading every 5 years. Back when we did this, it was for the same machine, it was about $30,000. And he said, there's no way to guarantee what it is 5 years from now. So that's what it was back then.
Are you currently having any issues with this loader?
We've had some computer problems with it, but that was, so they've been addressing it through the warranty.
But you said it was a 1,700 hour, which is super low hours for what we use it for.
Yeah.
I guess, to be real honest, I don't know why we think we have to trade it every 5 years. Why can't we run a machine until it has 10,000 hours on it?
Okay, so if the engine and the transmission fails, needs to be replaced, they're looking at $30,000 or $40,000 either or.
But that's an if, not a guarantee.
Yeah.
And we're taking care of it, doing all the PM, we're operating it properly, we're not reckless, we're not running into stuff, we're not doing heavy digging with it, right? We're loading materials, and sand and ice melt, and we're using it to run the snow blower. I mean, I guess I just don't think that we need to spend money just in case we don't have to spend money down the road. We might get 10 years out of that thing and not have to do the engine or transmission.
Yeah, and that's true.
In that time, we would have bought 2 more machines at a tune of $100,000 to $112,000, $120,000. I just don't think we need to buy a new machine now, especially it has another year warranty. Thinking a year from now, if it's having problems, that's different. Let them fix it, and then maybe if we think it's going to start nickel and diming us, we can start the discussion over again. But I mean, we just talked about relining all of our infrastructure, all of our sewer, and we need to pay $111,000 to Lewis and Clark, and we got to have a substation bond payment starting up. We're depleting our reserves with our fiber to home project. I'm not in favor of spending money just for the sake of what ifs and maybes. It's a 3-year-old machine. My newest car I own is 7 years old. And I do have to occasionally spend money on them, right, Gerald?
Occasionally. I got a question. which is lower, yeah, you're right with the warranty. It's 5 year, I think it's 4 years used. You've been setting money aside for equipment. You did talk to Bill said the money that's set aside is what,
Yeah,
310,000?
I have money in the budget.
Yeah, it's in the budget, so
Yeah.
you and Bill worked it out that this was gonna go towards equipment at this time.
Yeah.
Because I've been on the street committee for like 6 years now. I remember a couple meetings we had. I don't know.
But just because it's in the budget doesn't mean you have to spend it.
No, but I mean, if you get messing around with a trans or an engine and it goes out,
But replacing the transmission or the engine costs less than the upgrade on the trade.
yeah, if you keep it for 10 years, what's your estimate as far as value? What do you think? It's probably worth 30,000, 40,000.
He said so he went back 2000, so we were if this would have been 2005, at 15 years now, he said it would be worth probably 30, 35.
That's it. Yeah, but then if you lose an engine or a train, you put 40, it's still 75 there. I mean, like Troy said, we're probably still saving money in the long run.
Well, it's just, there's more electronic stuff. It's not like back in the day when it was replacing a hose or a valve or.
Right.
Yeah, I just wanted to run it by you guys, there was money in the budget for equipment replacement, and if you thought it was.
Let's say hypothetically, 6 months from now, try to cut a deal and say, if you got more trouble, you can review in 6 months. I mean, I'm not saying not to get it, but I'm just saying, look at our options, try to get as many options as we can. I know you said December is the price increase, but try to tell me, is it possible maybe to get a 6 months moratorium and then we'll relook at it then, not saying we're okay, but.
I'm on Jeff's committee as well, but I feel that it's important. I really want to see the infrastructure fixed. I really, really want to see that.
Yeah, me too.
So I kind of feel that the community would like to see the infrastructure be stronger and better, so we don't incur higher prices for infrastructure repairs. So I'm kind of leaning that way too, Jeff. I think I want to see the infrastructure in A1 condition.
So do we table this then for now? So it's.
I guess as far as I'm concerned, it's got another year worth left of warranty. I don't think we need to talk about it till then, in my opinion. I mean, if there was money in the budget for equipment replacement and we don't spend it, great, we stick it in reserve. If we don't buy a machine next year, that money's in reserve. You need it, big repair ends up needing to happen, the money's there to pay for it. We don't have a surprise, that money. That's my opinion. We're spending a lot of money right now on stuff, and we don't know that we're not gonna have to do a lagoon expansion. And I just think we gotta lock it down tight, to be real honest with you, Jeff. So, I appreciate the forethought and considering it though, but I don't know that we need to buy, it's an insurance policy, that warranty, right?
Yeah.
So, I think if we budgeted money for equipment replacement, we don't spend it, there's our insurance policy.
Are there options like on vehicles to get an extended warranty? On the current
I guess I don't know about that. I'd have to ask.
We all get those phone calls.
I haven't gotten the one on the loader yet.
Maybe just worth an ask and see how much if it's
Yeah.
available.
I can check on that.
Yeah.
That's a good idea.
Good, right, try to sell you one for the loader you had before this one.
So it sounds like the consensus is let's wait for a little bit.
I'm not concerned about a $4,000 or $5,000 price increase. That's on a $110,000 machine or a $150,000 machine.
Yeah, we check on the warranty though, I think that's a good idea. He's got a good idea, just a roundabout figure so we could maybe consider that,
I'll check.
1 to 5 years extended.
I'll check and see if there's something available, what it is.
Thank you, sir.
We appreciate it, thanks.
Yeah, Jack.
One more question for Jeff, sorry. Was there any spots that they've cambered so far that they've said, we really should line this year?
I haven't, the guy that ran the camera thought that there was something on Third. Clyde, when he looked at that stuff, he didn't see anything that
Can't wait till
was
next
in
summer.
dire
I mean,
straits, yeah.
if we're gonna look at doing a massive project and maybe get some kind of grant or loan forgiveness, I just, didn't know if there was like an emergency spot that
Yeah.
needed to get taken care of because it might collapse over the winter.
Yeah.
But,
Well, I'll go over that again with him, but when I asked him about it, there wasn't.
okay,
There's 4s and 5s that he showed us that need attention, but there wasn't anything that was,
Are they making you maps while they do these?
yeah.
Is there some way we can see that too?
Yeah,
Like a map of the grading of the sewers?
there's, yeah, they put together, there's a USB that you can see all of that stuff, and then there's a book they put together that they'll rate it's the 1 to a 5 rating on problem area. 1 is, you got a problem here. 4s and 5s are, you need to do something about them. They gave us a quote to fix some of the 4s and 5s for about $63,000.
Okay.
So when Gary and I visited, instead of, we came up with 13,000 for that, they're talking 19,000 to do that. Instead of trying to piece this together, if we can pull this all together and do it and get some forgiveness, maybe we can save some money doing that.
Yep.
So,
okay.
I'd like to see kind of like a visualization of,
yeah,
what areas, just
I'll get you that.
kind of get a scope of what we're looking at.
I'll get you the
Feel bad
book
right in
and
front of your house for
USB.
some reason. What's that? It's real bad right in front of your house.
Tell them to get something down there.
My darn kids.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Next up, Lynn Johnson, Finance Officer Report.
So at your place sitting there is the July financials. To touch base on what happened in July a little bit, we finalized Kelly Knudsen's final payoff with his vacation and sick time. The library, we paid for some new software, which is called Book Systems, for $3,935. So far, we have only refunded 2 family passes at the swimming pool, and so we had 1 more in July. The electric department east substation, we had Banner Engineers for $2,194. Wesco is $138,856. The final on 605 companies, which did the dirt work for the access road, came in at $133,279. DGR Engineers, $16,310, and Southern States for $80,145. Also in July, the electric department replaced their mower and got a 2020 Bobcat mower for $5,840. And then in the telephone office, the fiber to the home project had an invoice to FAR Engineers of $65,537.
Am I reading this correctly? The pool right now, are we at a loss of 18,000? Or are we at a loss of 85,000?
We're at a loss of 18,000. The center is budgeted, so we budgeted to lose 85,000. So right now we have 1 more month on that, but we don't have any more Kelly salaries, right?
Right.
So that's, I'm assuming, why the big decrease from what we budgeted.
Greg's salary is.
So what do you hypothesize that number's gonna be? Because I'm assuming that most of our,
I don't think it's going to be the 85.
so the fears of us
we
losing,
were still selling the punch passes down to the last week.
so the fears of us losing 80, 90, 100, plus 1,000, never.
I think it turned out, I guess Troy Boone's not here to speak on Grace's behalf, but I think the pool turned out better than we all expected. I think we're all tired of selling pool passes.
Yeah.
When I saw the 18, that's what I thought. I just wanted to make sure before I was happy to see the
Yeah.
$18,000.
Yeah, especially when the hours, I mean, the lifeguard hours were cut drastically. Maybe that's part of it. I don't know. The punch passes went over very well. It'll probably be something that we'll keep. I think the family pass needs to be tweaked a little bit more towards number of individuals in the family than, or a pass that covers how many people rather than a family. We got a lot of backlash about, well, grandma takes the child.
That's household,
Right.
it's a family pass, not the extended family.
Right. Right. So I think next year would be a good idea to visit early on a brainstorm how to make that better. But the punch passes went over very well. Yeah.
Do you think the punch pass could alleviate some of those?
Yeah.
I mean,
Definitely.
'cause it's
Especially when.
minimal out of pocket
Mhm.
for those situations, really.
Or even if you have a teenager watching your kids instead of having to buy them a single pass, or you just buy a punch pass for them, cover them 10 entries. Yeah.
Is there a motion to approve the July 2020 financials?
Building some of those.
Motion by Doden and seconded to approve the July 2020 financials. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Approved. Smart MRES contracts.
So I'm gonna ask Tom Freeberg and Mike Antonson to help out on this one. We have, for the last 5 years, had a contract with Utilismart, and they have read all of our electric meters for our billing. The 5-year contract is up, and we have the opportunity to utilize Utilismart through Missouri River. So with that, we're gonna have, we've been reviewing 2 contracts between the 2 of them. The ending 3 contracts, sorry. The ending dollar amount is pretty much a wash from year to year. This year is a little bit higher just due to the fact of us going on with Missouri River, but after next year we won't have that initial setup, and so it'll actually be $1,000, $2,000 less than what we're used to paying yearly. If you want to touch base on it, the Missouri River, going with them will give us more.
Get customer portals,
Right.
you know, and it'll really benefit your commercial and industrial, so they can get into their web portal and look at ways of reducing their usage and shaving their peak down, you know, and to develop better practices.
Yeah, that same portal will be available to residential
and that'll be
users
free
too.
charge to them, so, and residential will have the same
Are
thing.
they gonna use different equipment, different meters? Or
Nope,
just the same?
everything's staying the same.
So what's the average for 5 years? And you said it's gonna be a little costier in the first year. So what's the average for the second, third, fourth year?
You're still gonna have Utilismart read meters. Missouri River won't read the meters. They're just gonna wheel Utilismart services to the city, more or less.
You're gonna what?
Provide Utilismart services to the city.
Oh,
And then the customer portals as well. That's just something that Missouri River will do with their package.
The data will go through Missouri River,
Yes.
and then as a customer, I'm gonna have a login, so I can
Yeah.
look at my own account,
Yes.
my usage
Yes.
on the Missouri
so
River.
who's gonna read the meter?
Utilismart will still read the meters.
What?
Utilismart still does all that.
Oh, okay.
That's still synced into the
So
billing
we still gotta
system.
pay them.
Still gonna pay them, and you're gonna pay Missouri River, but it ended up being a wash. This year, you had the one-time initiating fee
Yeah,
of setting
30.
everything up.
3,200.
It was like $2 a meter or something.
Mhm.
But no, and then if we have issues, instead of having to go through Utilismart, they're based out of Canada, we can just call up to the Sioux Falls and they'll work through all the problems.
So they just have on behalf of Utilismart or something.
Yes.
What? The presenter mentioned something, time of use rate billing. What is that play into any of this? Do we do any of that?
We
Well,
can't,
yeah, we can. So,
Is that where we could build quicker?
no,
No,
it's
it
your
would
charge,
be-
your charge is based on the time of day.
Oh, okay.
So during the mid-afternoon,
I got you.
when
Like peak time.
peak times, you're gonna pay more. And then say, as a resident, you wanna do your laundry and stuff at night, you might get a cheaper rate if you do it at night time.
I
Brings
got
up
a question.
another point, though. So can we speed up the billing?
That's what you
We're about a
were-
month behind on the billing.
That's
Is there a
the
way we
water
can-
reading that's holding it up.
Mhm.
Well, no, the electric, we could go current on that, the water might just be behind.
You wanna have two different build dates? Like the water is read from this period and then the electric is read this period?
Yeah, why not? It's two different departments, who cares?
Bill, though.
So, your electrical,
The bill.
here's your electrical
So
bill.
you're volunteering to come in and explain that to everybody?
Could you build
Give
electric?
people credit, and would, you know, and just trust that when you send them the info, they'll understand that with electronic meters and with electric, we can read those instantly every day, we get readings, so. The thing is,
Could you bill on one bill, the electric usage that was more current, and the water bill that maybe has a 30-day, 45-day lapse? Is that
It's
possible?
possible. The only thing is if, when they go to move out, I mean, they're still gonna be.
Yeah.
Getting,
Or their first bill, they'll get billed for their electric, and then they won't get billed for water till the next month.
mhm.
And
Yeah.
You're probably gonna get caught up about double.
Yeah.
You're gonna have a double bill for
Yeah.
people to get caught up.
You just don't want the month.
you would have to do it over like a 4-month period and do 1 week extra, do 5 weeks at a
Yeah.
time.
To get it.
Just on the
So that
electric?
you are getting a double bill, but in the end, they're gonna pay the same.
So if they
Just
moved
get
out, they'd actually owe less because the electric bill would have been paid more current, and the water bill
Correct.
would still lag.
That just avoids the problem of, if someone stops paying, that we have a bigger charge out or a lesser charge out.
Something else I've thought about, how long does it take them to get the water in? I guess I'm leading to the question, what if we were to switch from end of month billing to a mid-month billing? Would it be possible to get water in within the first 15 days and do a 15th of the month billing?
I
And
think
have it due by the end of the
Yeah,
month?
I think Keith is doing a great job of getting the meters read, because he always reads them like the last
Up to 27th, 28th.
8th of the month, yeah. It's just the getting the readings dumped into the system and checking the reports. The reports are very time consuming, and that's just to make sure that there's no water leaks or there's, someone's got high consumption, just to contact them and then,
So you need more than that.
Yeah.
15 days.
mhm.
I was just thinking if we could move it all to 50.
Have we ever done a cost estimate on what it costs to put in electronic water meters?
We talked about this about a year and a half.
Every year,
Yeah,
every
we're
year.
going here, on this plan we're putting together,
Yeah.
state water plan, so we could actually apply for some funding to help with that too.
Because our meters are already set up for it, it's a transducer on the outside of the house that would be swapped out for either drive-by, where you just drive by and it just flows into the truck, or they could put up antennas that we could actually read it.
I think they may run off the system that we would have here
Yeah,
already.
the utility smart rate, I think it was
Piggyback.
30 cents a
So
meter
you could
for a
actually
water
have
meter.
access to that.
Most of our meters are set up for it, from my understanding, is that right? It's just that
Yeah,
piece on the outside that can be flipped.
most of the meters are changed out would be
How many years?
compatible with that.
Keith has been hitting it really hard the last 2 years of
Yeah.
replacing meters.
meters, yeah.
Yes,
The idea was,
there can't be too many
it could
cubes.
read quicker, plus
Meters.
leaks, we could pick up on.
Detect leaks, use technology for good instead of evil. You can-
I got a question, these meters, different time of day, is there really only one, or is other companies gonna do it too?
For the time of use.
Right, so they can hit us for more money. Like Mid-America, they gonna do it?
I have no idea.
I'll call them, sure, I'll find out. I'll find out. I wanna know why.
It already does that, right? They put those meters on there, shut you down.
That's load management.
Yeah.
Basically, time of day and all.
Time of day and peak on their system, then they can shut you off. It's, if you're in the program, but you're,
Same concept.
you're getting a reduced rate
By putting
by getting on that system. So it's saying them, but we're doing that. Are you talking the time of use rate?
Right, not even for the money, just say hypothetically you've got 6 kids and they're doing the laundry, and all of a sudden his electric bill is $600 for the month, and then he's gonna say, well, we're gonna do laundry at 3 o'clock in the morning.
So we got 4 different conversations going on.
Right. Well, that's
Okay.
They're gonna bill at the time of use, we don't have to bill at time of use.
Is the question right now, do we move forward with MRES and have them supply us with utility smart contract?
Yeah.
Yes.
And if so, do we need to approve that?
Yes.
Okay. And is that contract ready to be approved, or?
Yes, we've talked, they made some changes, there was a few that I don't like that they won't change, so.
So we
I
just,
can authorize the mayor to, or someone to sign that contract, or what do we
Yeah,
do?
or finance officer or someone.
But it's all ready to be approved?
Yeah, we've been through the review, Mike and Elaine and I sat down last week.
Now make a motion for Delta Smart Mirrors meter reading contracts as Mr. Freeberg quoted, that it's all ready for signing by the mayor.
Wait a second.
Motion by Sean, seconded to approve utility smart MRES meter reading contracts. Any further discussion?
Is that for 5 years?
It's a 5-year, yeah.
5 years.
No further discussion, all in favor say aye.
Alright.
Opposed, motion carries. Review funding for Beresford Baseball Association improvements to the Tino Legion baseball team.
I will take that. I do see Scott is on Zoom, but the last meeting, Scott had come, was going to present, asking the city to fund the turf project, but a new contract or a new bid had come in. Since then, he had worked with Tom Freeberg, and if the city were to finance this project, being on city grounds, they would have to go through the bid process. And so, if I understand this right, the city would actually bid it out under the formal bid process, but PRC would be ultimately the one paying for it with the funds that we would lend them. If the city council decides that we don't want to lend them the money, they don't need to go through the bid process. We would still want to obviously approve the project since it's on city ground, but they wouldn't have to then go and get more bids. So I guess tonight I just want to kind of open up for some discussion on that. The other part of Scott's thing last 2 weeks ago was the fencing. I've talked with Jerry and Elaine and Troy Doden, and thoughts on that was that the city would pay for the fencing, and we would put that in the budget for this next year, 2021 year. So,
Did you make a comment that the fencing would be part of the coaching, the 10,000, they'll go towards the fence instead of the coaches? Did he make a comment?
no, that was that the city would lend the money to PRC or Baseball Softball Association, and portion of the $10,000 annual subsidy would be retained by the city to help pay that loan. That was they were
But
requesting.
they're not
a
asking
loan.
for a loan now, they're asking just to be able to do the improvements to the field with your approval of what those improvements are.
And they'll get their own wall.
They'll get their own funding.
I don't know, I think that's still
I think that's-
probably,
Last I heard this.
is that they're gonna do their own funding? I guess I didn't hear that part.
Not using a city loan.
They have the means though to go out and get their own
They
funding.
do, PRCE is able to get their own bank funding, and I know that they're trying hard to get local businesses to sponsor or donate to it as well to hopefully pay for the project. But I think Scott had still planned tonight to come and maybe present a couple different loan options. But we kind of need to, I think, if you ask me, I feel like the council needs to determine if we are going to help them with a loan or if we're not going to, because it really determines if they need to go out for bid or if they can accept what they've got and move forward.
I'm on the PRC committee as well, or the board with Teresa. I missed the last PRC meeting, but I guess my feelings is that the city continues to do the financial support as we have been. And if they want to do an upgrade to the facility, they can seek out their own funding and proceed that way. Of course, we have to approve it because
it's gonna be on city property. Once they do the improvements, we own them. I think the city would continue to support the maintenance of the infield. So in lieu of having wages and materials to work the field, chalk it, buy an agri-lime, the regular maintenance, that watering the infield, all that, we would have to figure out an additional annual amount that we can contribute that they could use towards loan repayment for their project or their funding. And I'm okay with that. But I think we're tapping our cash reserves pretty hard with our fiber project, and I don't think we need to be loaning anybody $150,000 right now. That's my opinion.
I agree with Troy though. He's got a good philosophy to keep it tight.
If they have the means to secure the funding, I think they should pursue that. I'm in favor of the project and supporting it, continue with the subsidy, and the little bit extra since we don't have to maintain that part of the field. It's gonna be zero maintenance. So I'm okay with that too.
And then fence too, we're okay with that too.
I'm all right.
That's
a different issue.
That's gonna be suggested in the budget for 2021, we'll be considering the next.
That's something that I asked our park and rec our department head many times in the past when I was more involved with baseball, to look at putting in so that we could control traffic and take bait at the big field. And so I'm all in support of that.
So on the lifespan of the field, I think it was 15 years, was it mentioned that this would pass? Is the city on the hook 15 years from now to replace it all? Since we own it?
Potentially, if the association said we don't have the funds or the means or the desire to deal with it, I suppose the city would be on the hook to pull that turf out of there and restore it back to agri-lime and grass.
Or replace it.
Or replace the turf.
Would that expectation be in the agreement for installing? I mean, the idea that if it needs to be redone, that is the city gonna pay $150,000 or maybe $250,000 10 years from now to replace it, or is the expectation that
That's something to consider as well.
PRCE should also put aside money for that?
For replacement.
For replacement.
15 years down the road. Well, again.
I mean, yeah,
I'm
sure,
sure
great, but I mean, the cost, I'm sure, is gonna go up
Oh, yeah.
exponentially over that
Absolutely.
decade and a half.
It's gonna go up faster than our costs to maintain it as it is today. But also keep in mind, as it is today, we're nearing the point where we're gonna need to spend some money on that field to get it back to the point where it can be maintained with regular, daily, and game time maintenance again. I mean, we went through a big project with all volunteers 10 years ago. We spent how many weekends out there cutting out turf and reshaping the field and rebuilt the mound, and that was all volunteer. City bought the materials, we provided the labor. And that didn't last very long, and then the ridges started humping up again, and I mean, so I don't know. That's a $10,000 or $15,000 project if you're gonna pay it and hire it, the city's gonna do it. That's gotta be done about every 5 or 10 years. So there's expense in maintaining it. It's a part, just like anything else. So the next thing will be concessions, grandstand with concessions and restrooms. That's big dollars. That'll never end. Good point about who's gonna foot the bill 15 years from now to replace it.
I think if the council approves for them to do it, there should be some expectation down the road so that it's clear what is and what is not guaranteed.
That's a $10,000 a year thing, luxury item, every year, $10,000.
I mean, if the city maintained a subsidy of approximately $30,000 per year, and we reduce the maintenance costs, I would hope that some of that money is put into savings or something. Because that was one of the sales pitches, is that this is gonna remove all of these costs.
Yeah, to the tune of about $200 or $2,500 per year.
That's
a far cry from 10.
Yeah, that doesn't pay for $150,000.
No. Well, and keep the subsidies separated too. There's a $10,000 budgeted line item for Baseball Softball Association. The PRC is a completely separate line item for a subsidy. So, I'm not talking about the $30,000 subsidy to PRC, but the $10,000 to the baseball softball, and a couple thousand more for no maintenance on the field, or that part of the field. There's still gonna be outfield maintenance, but, so.
So the general theme has been infrastructure, water, sewer, streets, benefiting the most.
Yeah.
And not that this doesn't benefit some, but.
Well, that's why they need to fundraise to do it. It's a luxury item. We'll continue to do the minimum maintenance over there. That's my suggestion. Pay what we'd be paying if they hadn't done it.
And I
He's got a
know,
good point, though.
They want to upgrade, and they're willing to fundraise for it, so let them go out and secure the funding if they want to do it before they can raise enough donations to do it.
Well, you got a good point though, yearly maintenance, I mean, I'm for some money, if you wanna put some aside every year to keep, the maintenance, I'm not, against that. I just don't wanna give you $150,000.
Well, I don't want to borrow it just because I don't want to tap into any cash reserve that we have left.
And they reply. I mean, I don't mind setting some aside.
they were asking for, or they are asking for 120,000 and what they were, a couple different repayment plans, but essentially it would be $10,000 paid back from PRCE or not doing the subsidy, so to say. The subsidy would be zero for baseball, softball each year. Plus then they're looking for about a $2,000 forgiveness. So if we flip this and say, okay, you guys go get your own loan, we're gonna continue to give you your $10,000 plus maybe $2,000
for no maintenance, right?
They are gonna have the interest on external funding,
Yep.
but it's, I would hope, minimal, and we're still giving them then that
Yep.
$12,000 a year.
It's still a financial commitment.
Yeah.
And then no bid process. The cost of that project's gonna go up if you have to bid it, because then we gotta hire an engineer. So we have standard specs and.
I just think this is sort of a long project. Field's one thing. Bathrooms, grandstand, it's just gonna keep going on. I don't think it's anywhere near it. It's just the tip of the iceberg.
I talked to Greg about the baseball field lights. That's another thing to keep in.
Yep.
The lights that are down there, they're phasing them out. We changed some lights out at the football field the other day. And we needed to order some light bulbs, and they don't make those light bulbs in the U.S. anymore. And then they're only going to make them in foreign countries for about another year, and then they're going to be obsolete.
And I can tell you that we need to improve the lighting over there for nighttime tournaments anyways, because there's a couple of lines, there's a couple dark spots on that.
So that's just something to keep in mind, there's football fields that they're gonna look into changing them over to LEDs, and that's probably gonna be an $80,000 project. So that's just cool. But there's I think there's probably more lights on that baseball field than there is at the football field.
The lights remain the same, you just different bulbs, or you gotta change the whole head?
All of it. So it's just something to keep in mind too. There's a huge expense for either the baseball association or the city for
That's the same project there.
changing out the lights. So it'll be coming in the next year or two, because we won't be able to buy light bulbs anymore.
That's what we can right now.
We got 6 for the school, and they found them from someplace. Yeah, they're not cheap anymore either, so.
Which one you both choose now? So you baseball?
Metal Halo.
Oh.
They're not being used.
So the opinion right now is that, well, here is the Baseball Association would be preferred if they seek private funding, and the council would likely support the improvements to the field, but I think some conditions should be written in.
The discussion needs to be had about what happens when the turf is wore out, then who's replacing it.
And then fencing will be discussed.
And then the increase of potentially their subsidy from 10 to 12 or whatever would also be part of the 2021 budget. I will give you guys just a heads up that, so the Watch Puppy preschool building is considered city, school property. all the renovations being done in there are being covered by the school. So, just a heads up. Your CE, even though they use that building, all their revenues come from out of their school property.
Maintaining it. What about a luxury upgrade? Will they, is the school be funding that too?
School funded entirely gutting bathrooms, new tile,
Yeah.
putting in all new, Wi-Fi, fiber, all that stuff. So,
Replacing a bathroom with a bathroom, not a spa.
no,
That's my point.
good point. I just want you to just tell you that, you know.
I think the city's responsible for providing a fair field to compete on, but it's pretty, like you said, luxury item. This is
It is.
a fancy upgrade.
Then that just goes to who's gonna maintain it after, your question.
Right.
That's where I'm just kind of leading to.
Is that if I hop in really quick here?
Go ahead, Scott.
Yeah. Is that okay?
Yeah.
I know, just in listening to everybody's comments, I know they're talking about the luxury items and what happens in 10 to 15 years when the turf wears out. You know, I think we're getting really close to that point with some of the aspects of the field right now. You know, and if you walk in our outfield, it's like an ocean wave and how uneven it is. You know, the infield, the agri-lime, no new agri-lime has been put on that field. I'm guessing 6 years, 5, 6 years, you know, since then. Since the last time agri-lime was put on that field or put on either the north fields. So when we're talking about what happens when the turf eventually gives out in 12, 15 years, whatever that is, I mean, our current infield and to some extent our outfield is at that point. So that's why we're looking to make the improvements now before it gets worse. So to me, I don't see it as a luxury item. I see it's fixing the maintenance issues we are having because the field is getting dated. If that makes sense.
Would you agree though that we can repair those items with dirt and agri-lime for less than the cost of putting turf in?
If agri-lime is done consistently, I mean, I know when Princeville, I don't know exactly what happened. I know when Princeville came in, supposedly there was a deal to put drain tile in our outfield. For whatever reason, I know that never happened. That was long before I was part of the PRCE.
That's correct.
But I know there's been planned improvements for the field to make things better, to make the drainage better, and those things haven't taken place. Where this project helps with infield draining, reduces the maintenance costs. To me, I don't see the turf as a luxury item. I mean, to me, it's providing a safe, consistent surface that has a longer lasting period with lower maintenance.
Have we explored what it would cost to redo the field with dirt and agri-lime rather than the turf?
I mean, we can.
Because that might be 10 grand, and you know, the delta, the difference is the luxury upgrade. That's my point.
And agri-lime, you should be talking about probably 2 truckloads a year.
That's
Roughly.
correct. That's probably in the budget, Scott, so you should talk to the Parks Department head on that one. I mean, that's gotta be coordinated with the Parks guy there and just say, hey, we need to order some agri-lime. And there's budget line items for things like that. Just like there is for flowers and fertilizer. So I think it'd be great. I think it'd be awesome. But it's just it's a big ticket item, and we can we can improve the conditions of the field with dirt and agrolime for considerably less than the turf. So the question came up, when the turf wears out, is the city on the hook for the cost of replacing the turf or restoring it back to dirt and agrolime? Or is that another association fund drive project?
I would see that as another association, as just as part of our capital improvement plan, money we would have to save each year for that project to reoccur 12 years from now, whatever that year is.
So
we would have to set aside that money as a capital project.
you were online for most of that conversation, right, or all of it? So
yeah, I heard almost all of it.
So you heard the part about, rather than us owning the project, just maintaining our contributions through our subsidies, right?
Yep.
So I think over the course of 10 or 15 years, the contribution through the subsidies would pay for most of that project, correct? And that would supplement your fundraising efforts through your signage project and local business sponsorships and stuff, right?
Better, bigger, and better treatments.
So I think the city's behind it, Scott. We had the two questions. I think the consensus is we don't want to be the bank on this. We want to continue our annual subsidy. And then also the question came up, who funds the replacement of the turf when it's wore out? So that's where we were at with our discussion. So I don't think anybody's opposed to doing the project. I haven't heard that from anybody. Am I wrong?
No, I agree.
I think everybody's in favor of doing it. Are you still there?
Yep, I'm listening.
Oh, your video's going forward on us, so I wasn't sure if you were still listening.
Yeah, I'm not sure I have my videos up, but yeah, I'm still listening, so.
Okay. Thanks, Scott.
Thank you.
Next item is the restroom updates for Velo Park and Bridges Golf Course.
All right, I think last time you said you were to try to get some quotes to see what it would cost to put these, how much with all we'd have to spend as far as infrastructure, getting everything hooked up and everything. So he has got calls in. Donnie Hubert has been a little slow getting back to him. He's got calls in two other fellas. Right now, we're not getting a lot of response from these guys to put quotes together. They said they're all too busy. So we're going to keep working on that with them. Get some information as soon as Greg gets back, or they get back to Greg. We'll try to report it to the next, whatever our next meeting is. So I don't have any more than that for you right now. So.
But you guys, the committee picked a bathroom, right?
Yeah, I think it was the Denali, and then the other one was this other one. The Denali would be the two bedroom, or two bathroom. Really? 2 bathroom, the other down there across from the.
It's like a meeting or
So it'd be 2 distinct restrooms at the golf
Yes,
course and
yes.
4
Yeah.
at the park.
Yeah, that's the one we're looking at.
Is it, 504, 5 or 6, or what?
Between 5 and 6.
Oh, 5 and 6.
We got water and sewer already stubbed out there, R41, in the event that we're gonna put one in down the road, so it sits pretty much where the porta potty sits right
I
now.
was just wondering, because a lot of people at the park remembers, and they just said they really appreciate the bathroom, they're really happy.
Yeah.
And the
They've
windows
always had
too.
they've always had
They came
little.
down with his mother and
For 6
they
months stuff.
really happy, they appreciate it.
Okay.
But so thank you.
Next item, review ordinance 2020-05, regulating landscape around electrical structures. Is there a motion to approve ordinance 2020-05?
This just be a first reading.
Oh. Do I need to vote or anything, do we?
No, just have to be noted that there was a first reading of it. I think it's pretty self-explanatory, and Mike has been through it and thought it looked okay for his purposes. So.
Basically just says everything that the stickers say, right? And now it's a ordinance.
But putting in there that if we have to come in, we're not gonna be responsible for
Right,
it.
property owners are liable.
Right,
And for hauling the refuse also.
right. All he's gonna do is destroy it.
Not cleaning up or anything else. New business, resolution 2020-10, contingency fund. I think we need to transfer the money to support Old Fashioned Weekend, the bouncy inflatables, right?
Correct.
Is there a motion to approve resolution 2020-10?
Jordan, so moves.
Motion by Doden, seconded by Schott to approve resolution 2020-10. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Pay request number 1, Delta Star for transformer in the amount of $612,943.20.
Second.
Motion by Boone and seconded to approve pay request number 1, Delta Star.
Delete.
Or delete, I'm sorry. Sorry. In the amount of $612,943.20. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Pay request passed. Change order number 2, MP Next Level Fiber to the Home project.
Just for 754.31, it's the MP Next Level. We have 3 different contracts on this project, so this will be the second change order that we have with this.
754.31.
Yep.
Doden moves to approve the change order number 2 with MP Next Level for $754.31. Second.
Motion by Doden, seconded to approve change order number 2 in the amount of $754.31. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Authorization to advertise for liquor store manager. Is there a motion to advertise?
Doden so moves.
Second.
Motion by Doden, seconded by Schott. Tiedemann. Authorized to advertise for liquor store manager.
Do we?
Any further discussion?
That's right.
Hearing nothing, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Request to close 2nd Street between Maple and Birch as annually done by Lord Lorlick.
So I can make a motion to close 2nd Street between Maple Street and Birch Street for block party on August 22nd.
Schott, second.
Motion by Fagan, seconded to authorize closure of 2nd Street between Maple and Birch Street on August 22nd. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Funding for subsidies for 2021. Last year,
Short recess.
yeah, recess.
This one might take a while.
Which one? The next one? Or your brain?